SPED 2010 students. I hope everyone's had a great week. So we are jumping into Module 3. So just as an overview is where I'm going to start, and then we will get into the learning resources as well as kind of go over the assignment for this week. So this week really has a lot of heavy content. We're going to be looking at what an IEP is, what are the components of an IEP. We're also going to be looking at related services, Section 504, as well as what is the referral and assessment process for those for special education underneath IDEA. So really also looking at what is your role either as a general education teacher or a special educator as we're trying to meet the needs of these students. So as you can see here, I went ahead and listed our objectives. It's sort of what I had already mentioned. We're going to describe the required components of an IEP, which stands for Individualized Education Program. We're looking at what are some examples of related services when we're talking about accommodating those with special needs. And also really diving into what is the purpose of 504 and accommodation plans and how they differ from an IEP. And then we're going to look at you providing some examples of what related services would be for those who have special needs. So I went ahead and listed the keywords and concepts. Some of this you will find in the textbook, others you will find throughout the module. So as far as standards, I went ahead and listed the INTAS standards that we'll be covering as well as the standards for Council for Exceptional Children. Now let's jump into the learning resources. So first off, let's get into the required reading. So this week is a lot of heavy reading. You will be reading chapter 3 in the textbook, Teaching in Today's Inclusive Classrooms. But I also want you to go and look at that link for that Tennessee Special Education Framework, and I want you to read component 1.2 and all of component 2, because this is really going to relay back what we're talking about with IEP, section 504. So it's important for you to look at those two sections, as well as I gave you as an additional resource, so this is something that you want to read, the textbook, A Teacher's Guide to Special Education, chapters 2, 3, and 4 really connect well with the textbook and with the framework. So that's why I put those there. I feel like all of these readings together are going to really help you develop a deeper understanding of the policies and practices for inclusive education. So some of the other resources I have given you, obviously we have the textbook PowerPoint. As I mentioned before, this should not substitute for the book. It lacks a lot, meaning there's a lot missing from it. It's just hitting a few highlights. So just please make sure that you're not depending on this and that you have purchased the textbook. Which is Teaching in Today's Inclusive Classroom. So it does take a minute to pull up, so just be patient. But you will be obviously reading through those PowerPoints and looking at those. The other thing that is going to be listed for you is going to be the outline. This is also a great study tool because it will allow you to kind of take notes as you're reading through and going through the module, because this is going to help you study, because these are going to be the kinds of questions or the content that will be covered on the quiz and exam. The next thing I give you really is for your feedback. It's going to connect the textbook, the Tennessee Special Education Framework, as well as the Teacher's Guide to Special Education. It's connecting all of that together. So I created a Nearpod presentation. It's very interactive. You had one on IDEA. So this one is really looking at solely IEPs. So when you click on it, you'll have to join with the join code. But once you click on it, you're going to see that it will allow you to go through a student-paced presentation where it will ask you questions. You can go collaborate board. So it's really more interactive and gives you feedback right away for the course content, which is important. I also included a video here about what the process is when we're talking about IEP team, so you can watch that. Now, if you are not a video audio person and you're a read-write type of learner, I have included the transcript there for you if you'd rather look at that. I also included a link here, and this is solely looking at parents' perspective of how to tell if your child's IEP goals are what we call SMART, and that's something that you will be looking at. SMART goals are where we're looking at if the goal is specific, is it measurable, attainable, results oriented, and time bound. So SMART stands for the acronym of what we've listed here, and this kind of breaks down what it means. It gives you an example of one that would not be considered a SMART goal and one that would be considered a SMART goal. So this is really helpful for even you as a teacher or a pre-service teacher going into the field, understanding more about a child's IEP goals and if they actually are in fact SMART. So that is a wonderful resource for you. I went ahead and uploaded a PowerPoint on RTI evaluations and eligibility and what the process is, because remember, that's one of our objectives. We want to be able to look at what is the referral process and how do RTIs play a part in it, because in your textbook on chapter 3, we're going to talk about the pre-referral assessment process when you're trying to get a child tested for special education and what makes them eligible. So this PowerPoint really is useful and helpful to kind of bridge that gap and to make that connection. As far as the resources, that's all listed there for you. You get to it by clicking on Module 3. We are going in order, so this week we are doing Module 3. Now, always, the course content is laid out very linear, so as you go through it, we'll check it off. There is a separate box at the bottom of Module 3 that is specifically looking at your assessment activities, meaning how you're going to be graded. Now you'll see here right at the top, I did this on purpose. I wanted to remind you that you do have 2 service learning documents that need to be submitted. Actually 3 if you are going to be getting your TBI background check. Now remember, these are just reminders. All of the proof and documentation will always be submitted to Teams. This is just a calendar reminder is why I put that in there, so do not submit it to Dropbox. So you have the VECHS waiver due on Thursday, February 13, as well as your proof of liability insurance, which you have 2 choices. You can purchase Aon insurance, which is cost us $13 through the Water State Cashier's Office, or you can purchase STA or NEA membership. So you have to submit your proof that you purchased the insurance, and that is also going to Teams. And then, of course, you need to have your background check, your TBI background check, and that is also due on February 13th. So those 2 are there to remind you. Now, you will have your Module 3 quiz. So that was due, that's not going to be due till Sunday, February 16th, though. So you do have time to get that done. Remember, the quizzes, you will have multiple attempts, meaning that while you have that window open, so while Module 3 quiz is open, you have many attempts to take to get the best grade. So just take advantage of that. The questions are random, meaning that you may not get the same exact question every time that you take the quiz again on a new attempt, but it's still giving you exposure to the content, so it's a good study tool. So for your assessment homework, what you're going to be doing is you will be completing what we call the IRIS module. Now, you've already completed one of these before. This one is specifically going on IEPs. Okay, so you'll look here. There are 2 parts to this IRIS module. So the first one is talking about how do we develop high quality IEPs, and the second part of the module is really talking about, well, what is actually included in the IEP document. I have included accompanying note sheets here. This is a great tool for you for studying, because there will be questions on the quiz and the midterm exam that will be talking about IEPs, and some of the questions might come from here, so just keep that in mind. Now, one of the things that you'll note that I put here for you, that you will only be submitting the second note sheet to Dropbox for your homework. You will not be submitting the first part. And the reason why is because I felt like this is what I wanted us to concentrate on, was really looking at the second part of the note sheet. But it would be helpful for you to complete both of them. Now, you do need to complete both IRIS modules. There are assessments attached to both parts, so just make sure that you're engaging in that, because it allows you to have feedback. The IRIS module is really great because it's almost like professional development for pre-service teachers. We're talking about audio, interviews, giving videos, high quality videos, giving you practices and strategies, giving you questions, feedback. So it's really great for you to engage with this module. It really is going to connect what we're learning with the textbook and Nearpod presentations and going a step further. So that's why I really encourage you to complete the note sheets as well. So remember, the second IRIS module note sheet is what will be submitted to the Dropbox. Now, to get to the Dropbox, as I mentioned last week, you will click on Dropbox, and then you will submit it to where it says, it's underneath module assignments, and it'll say IEP, and that's where that one will go. Okay, so that pretty much covers all of module 3. I do want to remind you to keep submitting your service learning documentation. I did want to show you really quick where to go to get the timetable so you can keep up with the due dates. The pre-referral documentation process for service learning, it can be a lot, and there's a lot of documentation we need before you can ever be approved to begin service learning, and you do not want to get behind. So I do suggest that if you haven't already, you need to get the timetable. So where it's located is, if you're under the Getting Started module, you're going to click on Course Projects, and you click on Service Learning. You will have to scroll down quite a bit to see it. But you're going to see underneath where it says pre-service application, background check, referral form, and closing documents. It's the very first link. So when you click on it, you should be able to download it and save it, or download and print it out. And it's going to tell you the dates and when things have already passed or what needs to be submitted. And remember, again, this documentation for these documentation pieces, or the paperwork, all of this is going to be submitted to Teams. All right, so if you have any question, please feel free to reach out. I hope everyone has a great week, and until next time.